Dan, starting off today's reports. Aristocracies all over the continent have been continuing to control their vast lands today. In Britain, the aristocracy is the smallest, wealthiest, best defined, and socially responsible. Consisting of 400 families, only the eldest male son may sit in the House of Lords. The nobles also control lands ranging from a few thousand to 50,000 acres, receiving rent and owning 1/4 of all the arable land in the country. Here's reporter Zakk on the scene.
The aristocracy have been investing its wealth in commerce, canals, urban real estate, mines, and even industrial ventures. Because of the eldest son's right to inherit the right to sit in the House of Lords, the younger sons moved into commerce, the army, the professions, and the church. Controlling the parliament and their people, the aristocracy dominated the society and politics of the English counties. Back to you, Dan.
In France, nobilities are slightly less distinct compared to England. About 400,000 nobles are divided between nobles of the sword and nobles of the robe. French nobles are also divided between those who held office or favor with the royal court at Versailles, and those who do not. Court nobles reap the immense wealth gained from holding high office. Here's reporter Justin at the Palace of Versailles.
The nobles' grasp on high offices is intensifying as we speak. Most profitable positions are only being appointed to already established court nobles. The provincial nobility are being seen as little better off than wealthy peasants. Nobles are also being exempted from many taxes such as the tithe, forced labor, and the corvées. They are required to pay the vingtieme, an income tax but rarely paid in full. Back to you, Dan.
Aristocracies are also trying to protect themselves, as they feel a threat on their position. Nobles are trying to make it more difficult to become a noble. Secure appointments in crucial institutions use the authority of their own institutions to prevail against the monarchy and improve their financial positions. Aristocrat challenges may become a disruptive commotion throughout Europe today.
Right now, the European economy is being industrialized. Before this industrial revolution, the economy of a country would reach a plateau. But now the economy of countries can expand at an uninterrupted pace. Because of the current revolution, more goods and services have been produced. The industrial revolution is also demanding new kinds of skills, new discipline in work, and a large labor force. The goods that are being produced are meeting consumer demands. Also, industrialization has been raising the standard of living and is helping people overcome poverty. And here is Justin on the scene.
Even though the economy is thriving under the revolution, a lot of attention is on the invention of the new machinery, the establishment of factories, and a new kind of workforce. The inventions have been increasing the supply of consumer goods. Another reason for the increasing supply of consumer goods was the demand for goods for everyday life. Goods such as buttons, clothing, toys, china, furniture, rugs, kitchen utensils, candlesticks, brassware, silverware, pewterware, glassware, watches, jewelry, soap, beer, wines, and foodstuff. Back to you, Corey.
Thanks, Justin, for that great information. Also, there are many social factors that are helping establish the markets for the consumer goods. People are being persuaded into wanting the new consumer goods. For example, Josiah Wedgwood found customers among the royal family once he gained their business, and he created a less expensive version of the product for the middle class.
Let us take a moment of silence to appreciate the holiday season.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Jack.
In Amsterdam and other Western European cities, small Jewish communities have been very famous for their intelligence and financial institutions. However, most European Jews live in Eastern Europe. Most of the Jewish population is concentrated in Poland, Lithuania, and Ukraine, where no fewer than 3 million Jews live. They also live in Habsburg's lands, Germany and France. Catherine the Great specifically excludes all Jews from a manifesto that welcomed foreigners to settle in Russia. The Russian Empire includes a large number of Jews because of the first partition of Poland that occurred in 1772. Many Jews right now are not enjoying the rights that every citizen has. To further explain his situation here is our reporter Corey on the scene.
Although they are in these ghettos, they often enjoy a considerable degree of political autonomy within their own ghettos. As of now, however, many European Jews live in poverty, but there are some that are successful. Jewish financiers funded wars for major rulers and developed a professional relationship with them. These people have become known as court Jews. A very famous court Jew named Samuel Oppenheimer, a Jewish banker, is currently financing the Habsburg struggle against the Turks to defend Vienna. Back to you, Ed.
The Jewish community has become very poor in the past few years, although some of them have become successful bankers and financiers. Maybe in the near future, more Jews may become given the rights of citizens like everyone else.
Most people earn their livelihoods as their forebears have done generations before and as they expect their children to do after them. Right now, most people are thinking about the past instead of the future. Both nobles and peasants are calling for the restoration of traditional rights. Nobles are asserting what they consider their ancient rights against the intrusion of the expanding monarchical bureaucracies, while the peasants are petitioning and revolting for the revival of customary manorial rights that allow them to have access to particular lands, courts, or grievance procedures. Also, the economy is becoming more traditional. The quantity and quality of the grain harvest remain the most important fact of life for most of the population and a grievous concern for governments.
Here's reporter Corey on the scene.
Hierarchical structure of the society has also been related to traditional beliefs. The medieval sense of rank and degree has become more rigid. And several city laws have been regulated that dress of different class remained on the books. The laws have forbidden people in one class or occupation from wearing clothes like those worn by their social superiors. So far, laws have been ineffective. Back to you, Zach.
Each state is considered a community composed of smaller communities. These Europeans do not enjoy what Americans regard as individual rights. A person can enjoy these rights depending on their community or group. The community could include the village, the nobility, the church, a university, or a parish. Some privileges from being in the community is exemption from taxation or punishment.
As towns across Europe sought economic stability, certain groups have gathered together to pursue significant changes in social and economic life. These changes were mainly targeted towards agriculture, the prime source of social and economic life in Europe.
Hello, this is field reporter Nikhil here, standing with Mr. Adams in the small town of Williamsburg. Mr. Adams is considered a peasant, but he is not your typical peasant. He is the one who sparked this agricultural revolution. Mr. Adams, please explain your goal and how you plan to accomplish it.
Well, the primary goal is to ensure stability among the local food supply due to the uncertainty of successful harvesting. I believe I will be able to accomplish this with the assistance of my companions as we develop new methods and begin to cultivate more reliable crops.
Thanks for your time, Mr. Adams. Now back to you, Ed.
Thank you, Nikhil. We will conclude today's agricultural revolution segment with the final information on the expansion of population due to agricultural advancements.
This population explosion established greater demands for food, goods, jobs, and services. We could say that Europe's society and social practices of the old regime have literally outgrown their traditional bounds.
This was Ed and Justin reporting on the revolution in agriculture. Tune in after the brief intermission.
Every day, bread prices go up and people starve to death.
In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room.
Keep bread prices low so people don't starve to death.
In many of the countries in Europe, the status and power of the nobility was based on the land. The other part of the population that lived in the rural areas were very poor. In England and France, the agricultural forces were driven by tenants, or free peasantry. All of these workers had the legal rights of citizens. These workers had a huge rural dependency for their country because they provided food for many people. Some countries do not provide the farmers these legal rights that England and France give. Germany, Austria, and Russia have their serfs bound legally to a particular plot of land. Let's see what our field reporter, Zach, has to say about the situation.
Many of the farmers and peasants that live in countries like Germany, Austria, and Russia wish that they could move to a country that gives them legal rights. They say that their country subjects them all to high taxation and some may not be able to afford it. The workers have to stay on one plot of land and work for one particular landowner or a lord. In England and France, they give their farmers the legal rights and they are very happy to have these rights. Back to you, Dan.
Serfs were given many obligations that they had to carry out. In the Ottoman Empire, peasants were free, but many of the landowners tried to assert power over them. Klift is the Turkish word that describes the lord's domain over the peasants. The farmers started to grow crops like cotton, vegetables, potatoes, and maize, which would be sold on the market. Since Ottoman lands were very scarce, peasants could move around to find what they needed. Now there is the disorder happening, and lords are taking advantage to increase their authority. Our reporter Justin is on the scene.
In Constantinople, disorder has broken out, and many of the lords have been taking advantage of the opportunity to gain more authority over the serfs. The serfs are in need of protection from the local bandits that have been going around. The lords have been letting serfs stay in their homes, in their fortified manor houses in exchange for working on the farms. All the materials that the serfs need, such as housing supplies and tools, were all there for them to use. This is how the lords are gaining their power over the serfs. Back to you, Dan.
The peasants have been through a lot, and hopefully this conflict will end in the near future.
With Europe lacking industrial revolution, the majority of Europeans are currently dependent on an agricultural and artisan-based economy. Based on the reports, it seems that the societies in Northwestern Europe and Eastern Europe have been differentiated due to isolated developments. In Northwestern Europe, they are currently experiencing segregations among economic standings, in which the wealthy households consisted of more than 5 people compared to the average household, which consisted of a maximum of 5 people. This section of Europe has been experiencing high mortality rates. Common terms such as servant have also been developed different meanings, which in context refers to a man hired to work for the head of a household in exchange for life necessities. As we move across the continent to Eastern Europe, we have concluded that the structure of households in standard society had changed due to location. Russian households frequently consisted of more than 9 people and sometimes more than 20 due to a relatively early time of marriage compared to Northwestern Europe. Here's economist Nikhil.
Although another household member could prove lucrative, childbirth was typically not welcome in these European homes. Despite the possible diseases that could endanger the mother, the child might represent an economic burden on the family. As a result, many hospitals have been established across Europe to care for the abandoned children. I am currently reporting in front of a Paris Foundling hospital, which is currently providing care for more than 1,000 abandoned children. I am proud to say that the majority of these children are currently receiving care within the hospital and are guaranteed jobs and possible education due to the demanding literacy rates. This is Nikhil at the Paris Foundling Hospital, back to edit the station.
Thank you, Nikhil.
Throughout the past few years, cities have been rapidly increasing in population. Also, a major shift of people from southern Mediterranean Europe to northern Europe occurred. Most of the rapid growth of cities is happening in the capitals and ports. This growth in the capitals proves that the country's government have grown and developed into a strong central government. The growth in the port cities is caused by an increase in European overseas trade. New cities started popping up as well as the growth of small towns. A new pattern of urban population has started to come about when the growth of larger existing cities started to decline, and new cities and towns started developing. Let's see what our reporter Corey has to say.
Dave Perez is calling the new pattern of urban population and urban growth from below. He says this because many of the new cities and small towns are growing very rapidly from nothing. This may be caused by the Industrial Revolution starting in the countryside, which fostered the growth of many small towns and factories. Also, an improvement in agriculture helped this increase in cities. There has been an increase in crop production, which has led to the development of many trading centers and growth of smaller cities. Back to you, Dave.
Many riots have broken out not only about social class issues but religious and political reasons. A bread riot broke out because a baker announced a price that was considered to be unjust. The religious riots occurred because a Protestant mob wanted the government to withdraw an act to legalize Jewish naturalization. The Lord George Gordon created an imaginary plot by Catholics because the military relieved their recruits from having to take anti-Catholic oaths. Political riots were breaking out because the upper class relied on rowdy crowds to persuade the disputes with the monarchy. Hopefully things will settle down and issue will be resolved.
Has this ever happened to you? Well, that will never happen again, because we got buckets!
Buckets? Really?
Yeah, look for us by your local well.
That was this week's European news. Thanks for watching.